my name is Neville Lake, and this is the third in a series of 5 videos that go with the Strategic Planning Workbook, the 3rd edition. This one's about competition, most particularly about competitors and potential competitors. But before I get to that, let me start with a story. And it's the story of the 2 photographers who are out in the African savannah taking photographs of animals. And one morning they're there at dawn, it's a beautiful morning, it's dew on the African savannah, and right in the centre of what will be their photograph is a magnificent male African lion. Fantastic specimen, and as luck would have it, there's a shaft of sunlight directly on that lion. The 2 photographers carefully go downwind and they start crawling towards this magnificent animal. And as they get close to it, suddenly the wind changes and the lion picks up their scent, and it's up on its feet and it catches them, locks onto them with its hunter's eyes. And it gets up and it starts to move towards them. And one of the 2 photographers carefully puts down his photographic equipment and starts to run. And his mate calls out and says, "Don't be silly," he says, "you can't possibly outrun a lion." And the guy who's running turns around and looks back and says, "I don't have to outrun a lion, I only have to outrun you." And that's a really good story about competition, because out there you're going to be competing with one or many different organisations, and you need to understand, who are they? Who are you trying to outrun? And you need to understand 2 things. One of those is the nature of competition. What kind of competitive environment are you in? And the second is, what are your competitors and potential competitors doing at the moment? Now, to begin this, let's have a look and think about the nature of competition by considering the game of billiards and other games that you might play on a billiards table. In the game of billiards, there are only 3 balls on the table, so where one ball is positioned in relation to another, and what one ball does, has a profound effect on what's going on the table. The second situation is more like a game of pool. Here there are more balls on the table, so the relationship between them is weaker. Those outlying balls may have little impact on the way in which you play your game, but you have to watch the balls which are closer to you. So if this was a competitive story, you need to be aware of those competitors who are working with your customers and operating more closely in your marketplace, but you don't need to get too excited about those which, although they might be in the same business, are further away from what you're doing and what you plan to be doing in the future. The third situation is where there are many players in the marketplace. Your competitors are going to be small, as are you very probably, and you're not going to have a great deal of effect on each other. You'll work with your own clients, you'll work within your own geographic region, you'll offer your own specialised products, and what your competitor does is not necessarily that interesting to you, because the relationship between you and them is really very weak. What you do may have no effect on their world, and what they do may have no effect on your world. So you need to think about the nature of the competition. What kind of game are you playing? Is it billiards, is it pool, or is it some other kind of game with many more balls on the table? You need to think not just about what's happening in the whole market, because you may not be playing in the whole of the market. You might only be playing in a portion of the market. So who are your competitors in the portion that you're in? They may be big players in the same market as you, they may be competing quite fiercely with each other, but they may be competing for customers that simply aren't going to be yours, or they may be selling products which simply aren't the kinds of products that you're going to be providing. So think about what part of the market that you're in, and who else is in that market, and what the nature of that relationship is. And that might take a little bit of time to get clear in your head. Ask a lot of people questions, think about who your customers are now, think about who your customers might be in the future, and get it clear as to where you sit in the market.
Here in Tung Choi Street in Hong Kong, the price of fish for keeping in aquariums is not greatly affected by what's happening in the rest of the world. However, just a short way up the street, the ladies' market here is different. It's much more connected to the rest of the world in terms of the products it offers, and the kinds of prices that it can demand are very much driven by the nature of the customers that come through here, and those customers are a reflection of what's happening in the economies around the rest of the world. And what's happening in the world has an even stronger effect here in the electronics market, both in terms of the numbers of customers, the types of products they're interested in buying, and the price that people here can achieve. So you need to think carefully about what's happening in your world globally. What impact is it going to have? And how can you predict, as much as you can, the future so that you can take some control of it and be ready to do something which your competitor may not yet be in the position to take advantage of.
And then once you're there, then you need to ask some quite definite questions about your competitors. You need to know, who are they? How big are they? What's the leverage that they have? Where are they going? And it's always nice to ask the question, what makes you special? What's your position against those? And you can take that information and you can put it onto a table that looks something like this. Yeah, so let me just talk about a couple of those questions. Let me start with what is their leverage, because this is a really important question to ask, because every product and every service has got what's called foundation aspects of it. So these are the things that you have to do to stay in business. If you're in a store, you have to provide a certain level of service because everyone provides that level of service. If you're selling a product, then that product probably has to come with a certain level of features because all products in the marketplace come with those kinds of features. If you're in the service game, then you have to provide a certain level of service, otherwise people simply aren't going to come to you at all. So some organisations just point to those foundation aspects and say, look, this is what we do, and therefore the customers ought to come. Yes, but this is what everybody else does as well. So while you need to get that right, otherwise you're not in the game, you need to think very hard about what is the leverage that you offer, what is the thing that you offer that other people don't. So when you're thinking about competitors, be clear about what their leverage attributes are. What is it that they're doing that makes them different, that makes them special, that makes them unique, and if you can't replicate those so that you therefore wash out the leverage attribute that they have, then you need to do something else which makes you more interesting. So think very hard about the idea of foundation attributes and leverage attributes, and think about what your competitors are doing to create leverage. So that's one area that you need to think about carefully, or one question you need to think about carefully. I think another question you need to think about quite carefully is, where are they going? So what are your competitors doing? Where are they going to be in the future? And in many cases, competitors announce this on their website, on their annual reports, in public documents, in press interviews and so on, because they want to tell their customers what they're doing, they want to tell their customers where they're going, they want to show their customers what products and services they are offering, so that they're trying to attract new customers by doing so. But of course, while they put that information into the public domain, they also tell you what they're doing, and you can take that information and use that to understand where they're going and what you might need to do to respond to that. So that's two of the questions I've covered a little bit more in detail. I've also thrown in there in the conversation thinking about yourself, and we talked about that when we looked at looking at your customers in the customer service video. But that's also a really important question to ask when you're thinking about your business in relation to your competitors. What makes you unique? What are your, as I mentioned before, your leverage attributes? And how can you make sure that you are always interesting compared with your competitors? Because as they change, you're going to be required to change as well. What's delivering success to you today may well not be able to deliver success into the future. What you're currently able to build your business on now may have to be changed, because your business may have to be built on something else into the future. So some very important questions about. Of course, it's not just your current competitors that you need to worry about. There are also potential competitors out there who may come in and start to take your customers from you. And you need to understand a few things about those. You need to understand, who are they? What leverage might they be able to bring with them when they enter your market? How will they entice away your customers? And how much of a threat are they? And you can see that by possibly seeing that their competitors, or people doing, organisations doing similar things to what you're doing overseas, who may come into your market, or there may be organisations doing something similar to what you do, who could extend out their current offering and therefore come into your market and turn out to be competitors of yours. So need to have a look at that, and a really good way to capture that information is to put it onto a table like this. So, we've talked a bit about competition, and we've seen how you can analyse your current competitors and put some information onto the table and get a better insight into what they're doing. And we've also thought about potential competitors and what kind of information you can generate about those. So that's given you some insights to what else is going on in your marketplace. So do come back and join me in the next video when we'll continue our strategic journey together. I look forward to seeing you then.